Yes, I'm in the same clothing because while I'm up here, I'm going to tell multiple stories because I'm here. I have a huge list of all the stories I would like to tell, and it's hard to pick and choose which ones do I tell and when. The reason why is some are longer than others and they're more involved. I'm still editing tons of stuff because I'm trying to insert pictures and video clips that I find to go with those stories. A lot of my stories have no videos or pictures. So I'm going to try and tell a couple simple ones right now. When we lived on 2114 Lamer, there were these neighbors that moved in 2 houses down. I'm not going to say their names for specific reasons. You know who you are, and other people that are going to watch this are going to know exactly who I'm talking about, but I don't want to name their names, and do not comment their names if you know who they are, because I don't want them to get any type of trouble from their past. They're good people now, but they have a past as well, and there's some things in there that I don't want them to get in trouble for. But I will say this. I was about 11, maybe 12, somewhere around 11 or 12. I couldn't have been more than 12. I could have been 10. I might have been 10. I was either 10 or I'm not sure. I know I wasn't older than 12. Well, these new people moved in a couple houses down. They had money. These people had tons of money. They had a boat. They had a brand new Z28. They had other cars and stuff. These people had money. Well, they had a son and a daughter. The son was our age, mine and Jason and everybody. And he lived in between me and Jason's house. There was also a little girl there, his sister, like a year or two younger. So we're all playing in the neighborhood. They had all the toys. They had a brand new ColecoVision when it came out. Now, looking back and watching this video, you're probably thinking, that's stupid. But keep in mind, Atari at this time, we couldn't even afford an Atari. Now, Jason had one, and we ended up getting one later. And Intellivision, that was also an expensive one. But these people had ColecoVision, and they had turbo and the steering wheel and the pedals. No, those were extra accessories. They cost money, and back then this was expensive stuff. This was brand new. So we would always go over there and play this stuff. We were always hanging out with them and playing outside, riding skateboards and stuff. We were having a blast. This is, new kid on the block, they got toys. If you know anything about my generation, we mostly grew up without parents. I grew up with my sister and my mom. My mom had to work all day, so we were home alone. Most of my generation grew up that way. We would have a key in our pocket. We always made sure the door was locked. We'd walk home from school and go in the house. We weren't allowed to open the door for strangers. We weren't even allowed to answer the phone. Back then you'd have the rotary phone. My mom would call, let it ring twice, hang up, and then call back. That way we knew it was her calling, and we'd pick it right back up. We knew it was her. She's checking, make sure we got home, all that type of stuff. So we were outside playing, and it was like a Friday, and my mom was at work. And these people said, hey, we're going to Vegas. You want to come with us? And I'm like, heck yes, I want to go with you. I knew my mom would say no. I'm not going to ask my mom. She'll say no. You don't ask because you know they're going to say no. So I went home and I wrote a note. And it said, Mom, I'm in Vegas. I'll be home after the weekend. That's it. That's all I said in the note. Now, the funny thing about this story is when I went to Lamer Street on my vacation recently, which I'm still editing, you'll see that coming up pretty soon. Jason's mom still lives there. I actually got to go see her, which was awesome. And her boyfriend. Thank you so much for letting me see you guys. So, because that was really cool. She was telling this story, which I thought was hilarious, that, you know, it's not me telling the story of my life. She was telling one of my stories, like, oh my gosh, you couldn't believe what he used to do. It was funny because I was little when I was doing it. And it's just funny that she remembered this, you know. I go over there, I leave the note for my mom, we take off. We go to Lake Mead. Now, I don't know exactly where we stayed, but back then, you were not allowed as a minor to go in the casinos. Now, this is the 80s, the early 80s, so you got to think arcades were big at this time, you know. All the big arcade boom, all the video games are coming out. And arcades were really awesome to be hanging out in. And a lot of these hotels, these casinos, they would have the elevators right by the front door, and they would have an arcade there. So when you had kids, you would go in the elevator and go to your room, or you'd drop your kids at the video games, you know, at the arcade, you'd go gamble. Back then, I don't even remember being allowed to walk through a casino. And back then they all smoked and everything. I don't know if they still do anymore. Everybody smoked. The rules changed like way later when I was older. I don't know the current rules, but the rules ended up changing when they started making Vegas more family friendly, because back in the day, it was like scummy, like dirty. It was made for gambling and drinking. That's what Vegas was. Party town, gambling, drinking. That's why they call it Sin City. After, this is way later when I was older, they tried to make it more family oriented. They then changed the rules to where you are allowed to walk through with your kids, but they were not allowed to touch anything. If they even pull a handle or touch a machine, security will be on you quick. And if you've ever messed with Vegas security, you'll know that. You know how fast they can get right on you and grab you and throw you out. Trust me, I know I've been there. Maybe I'll tell that in an upcoming story. So we go to Lake Mead, which Vegas, I'm not really sure where we stayed. We had the boat. And we were towing it with the Z28. This brand new Z28 in this boat. We go to Lake Mead. Now, we go on the lake. The original plan was to go on the lake and take our time and cruise around, there was like a part where you can go around and go way back. And we were going to spend the night on the boat. That didn't happen because we got pretty far out there. One of the gas tanks, for some whatever reason, had a hole in it, and it was leaking inside the boat. So we all had to help disconnect this gas tank. Now, there was a reserve or two in the back somewhere. This was like in the bottom, like in the front somewhere. This was a 75-gallon tank of gas that was full. This thing was full. We all had to help get it out, and actually we dumped it over the side of the boat, watched it just go to the bottom of the lake, which is really funny because right now we are in July of 2022. This is somewhere around like 1982. You're talking about 40 years later, Lake Mead is drying up. If anybody knows anything, please look at the bottom of the lake and see if it's still there. That would be hilarious. Anyway, that's what we did. And because we didn't have enough gas at that time to do what we wanted to do, we simply came back. But because these people had money, their dad would give us these rolls of quarters just to be in the arcade all day. But it was great for us. We were, you know, scamming on chicks all day, and we would go to other hotels and go to other arcades and take this money, and then we'd go back to the arcade, and his dad would come in just to check on us, and he'd be like, hey guys, you need more money? And he would just give us more, like rolls and rolls of quarters for the video games. This was great. Now, I'm not going to say what they did. I found out later in life when I was an adult what they used to do, and it was not a good thing. But they had money, and they were very, very nice people to me. And when we came back, I was in a lot of trouble with my mom, and I got grounded forever, which is always the case. And Jason always made fun of me. Can John come out and play? These are jail bars because I was always grounded. and I would talk to him. I wasn't allowed out of the house. So I'd open the window and he'd be out on the sidewalk and we would talk. And he'd be like, "Can John come out and play?" And he'd make fun of me all the time. I was grounded like my whole life. I was always in trouble for something. But like stuff like that, I was in trouble for all kinds of stuff like that. Now my mom was a single mom. She didn't know what to do. So, I mean, that was a legitimate grounding right there. But I was grounded most of the time. And I think it was because my mom didn't know what to do. She just wanted me stuck in the house so she knew I'd be there. So anyway, that's the story of Lake Mead. I hope you enjoyed it because I have so many of these weird little stories, and I was kind of a bad kid in a way, but I wasn't. I was just like, bye, I'm going to Vegas.